Thank you, sir. I have Councillor Snively and Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, through you, Worship. We got to remember one thing here. The advantage Essex has, they're 10 minutes from Windsor. To waive development fees here with the rate of building that's going on now, I don't think there's a need for it at all. I mean, people are moving to Essex, people want to come to Essex because they're close to their work downtown Windsor. So I wouldn't support waiving development fees in this ward here. Okay, I did in Ward 4, but that was a different circumstance altogether. So I would just want to make that clear to the public and to the media. It's altogether different. But as far as Ward 1 here, I agree with Councillor Bjorkman. The development here, residential growth, is going at a rate that it should be. And I do support any developer coming in here, but not waiving development fees for sure. Not in Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it would be helpful if council members showed up to council meetings prepared. There's been two questions that have come up tonight showing that reports and agendas haven't been read, which doesn't make our job here any easier. That being said, I do not see Ward 1 being in the housing crisis, similar to what Ward 4 is. If you look at the figures, my iPad just went off, but if you look at the figures, for every $1,500 we get, or every resident we have, only 600, I forget what figure I was looking at, but $600 of that comes in as revenue, and another $900 comes in as an expense. So every house we add, we're adding expenses, which is what our policy planner, Jeff Watson, was trying to tell us, if we would just listen. But I find that some council members don't want to listen either, and it's extremely irritating. So we know that when we get new homes, we need to come up with user fees and grants and rates to make up the difference. That being said, the more homes we have, the more stronger our communities are, the more stronger our schools are, and the more stronger our businesses are, the more used our parks are. Those are all good things. But I guess I'm just a little frustrated. I understood the report very clearly. I read it by myself, and I paid attention when staff were presenting, and I wish all of us had the same courtesy. Thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I'm not going to carry on. It's a simple request. I'm not going to take people throwing stones and suggesting things, but I can tell you this for the record. As a result of no development in that particular piece of real estate, and then it was suggested that it has to go across the board to all of them. No, it doesn't. We're council, and we do what's in the interest of the community, in the interest of generating revenues. But that particular piece of land has lost the town of Essex about $8 million since it's been sitting idle, and we're talking about maybe at the worst $1 million in DC charges being waived. And with all that, in closing, this council is not open-minded, and the reason when I say that is because the development of that property, we're focusing on housing right now. I just use housing as an example. There's many opportunities that was originally scheduled to go in there. Car dealerships, restaurants, banks, and it's outside, and I just used the housing consideration as an example, but this council wants to think I just want to waive the DC charges on housing. I don't. I want to waive the fees on getting other opportunities in there for our community to enjoy. And again, whether it's banks, restaurants, whatever it may be, because the original site plan called for all that. It called for car dealerships. So council, open your mind up a little bit. It's more than just houses.
Point of information.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I thought we had no DC charges on commercial and industrial already. Do we have DC charges on commercial and industrial?
Mrs. Hunter.
Through your worship, we have DCs on commercial, but not industrial.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my point. There's all kinds of money to be had outside the houses. I'm not talking just about housing. Look at the big picture. But if you don't want to support it, don't support it. I don't care. I'll just raise it, and council will either support it or they won't. And I'll just report out tomorrow, council didn't support it, because that's what happened.
Okay, before I go to you, Councilor Snively, your request, I believe, and I could draw the minutes up here from our last meeting when you requested this, it was about residential, and now we're talking about everything, so, no, listen, please, that's all I'm going to say. We're not going to argue this. Councilor Snively, you have the floor, sir.
Point of interest for clarity.
Okay, yes, sir, go ahead. Okay, we'll check back and make sure we correct it. I have Councilor Bjorkman first and then Councilor Snively. Councilor Snively.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say one last thing. I want to thank Donna, and I want to thank Jeff and Chris for their hard work. We went through a rezoning out there, and we are getting a good tax base coming in, and we are continuing to grow in this municipality, and we will. So I'll leave it at that. And we are growing in residential growth here. You can't sit here and say we're not. So, good. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I just need a second to talk with our CEO, ask her a question. Now, if no motion's been made, what? Okay, can I receive this report first and then, okay. Motion to receive this report. Councilor Snively, Deputy Mayor Malash. And to that, I would just say, wow, I can't believe how much time and effort went into what I thought was just a little question to come up with this stuff. I hate to say how many hours this would have taken. Wow. It's quite a report, I'll tell you. And when I talk about having a staff that does a hell of a job on our behalf, more proof, just this thing. I couldn't dream of putting a package together like this. But anyways, Councilor Folks made a motion and was supported. Oh, you're making a motion right now, sir.
You have to vote first.
Oh, we got to vote on this one. Motion to receive, that's right. Receive the report, yep.
I'd like to put a motion forward that council consider or council waive the DC charges for residential and commercial development in the vacant property at County Road 8 and number 3 bypass, specific to. And I'm asking for a recorded vote, please, because there's a couple developers I want to talk to tomorrow. And again, it's commercial and residential.
Okay. Okay, the motion's been made, everybody has it, and it's been supported by Councilor Rogers. You have the floor.
Yep, just 1 minute.
Okay, to the motion brought by
I'd
Councillor...
like to comment on this motion.
Okay? At the motion,
Everybody gets
you're
one
right.
shot here, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. For clarity, that particular property, how many people, how many developers own property in that development?
Do we have that?
Do we have that answer?
Maybe Mr. Nepsy or
3.
Mr. Watson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Valenti Realty owns the residential portion of the land, which is the largest parcel. Then there's a holding company which owns the former Loblaw site, and then there are 1, 2, 3 other property owners for the commercial and what will become the industrial lands.
Okay. So that entire development is already sold, so it's only going, we're looking at working just with the developers that are already there. There's no opportunity for anybody else to get in. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Snively.
Thank you, Worship. I'm
All right,
kind
Councillor Snively, I have Deputy Mayor first,
okay. Yep.
and then you.
Through you, Your Worship. I'm not, in general, I'm not a supporter of waiving any DC charges. I believe, and the administration has given us this lecture many a times, that we have to, and the province comes along and it's legislated by the province to have a report done every so often to tell us what portion of taxes or fees or development charges that persons that are coming new into your community should be paying towards future new services that we have to provide. So whatever we decide not to charge those persons coming in, new persons coming into the community, those taxes or those costs will fall on the backs of everyone else that is a current taxpayer in the community. So very good explanation tonight by our administration. Thank you, Mr. Morrison, with explaining how those future costs affect us, particularly with homes, that we would be actually losing money or paying out more money than what we would have collected in taxes. And that's what this report is saying. So as far as development charges go, I'm not in favor, usually ever, of reducing or eliminating any development charges. Back about a year ago or a year and a half ago, we realized that we had some issues in Harrow. We were looking at trying to show the school board that we were supporting that area and trying to get encouraging additional residential development in that area so that the school board would see that the town is taking strides in trying to increase population in that area for the high school to have more bodies. And so far it hasn't worked. We haven't had a huge influx. And for that reason, I've continued to support having a reduced DC out in that area. But as far as the rest of the community, I think it's a backwards move to try and say now that we're not going to have any development charges. Those charges reduce the load, the tax burden of those current residents, and new development in town should expect that it's going to happen. And it happens in most communities across this county, across this province, across this country, and it's probably going on in the United States as well. Some communities choose to put a hiatus at certain times on development charges, but I think that you're going to see development happen here, and we've got people that are interested in developing here, particularly in Ward 1. But if we're going to reduce it in Ward 1 now, I think we should be reducing it across the entire community. If we're only going to do it, if we're going to say Ward 4, now Ward 1, why not Ward 2 and Ward 3 as well? And then the next thing you know, we have no development charges at all. So I am not in favor of reducing development charges at all anywhere else other than what we've already committed to in Ward 4, Harrow, because we know that we've got an issue there and we're trying to encourage some development to happen in that area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, the deputy mayor said exactly what I was going to say. You know, I support it in Ward 4 because of the situation there. But the other, if we're going to do it in Ward 1, and I agree 100%, go right across all the wards. But I don't support that because the location of Essex itself, towards Windsor, and what's going on in Essex today. So I would not support waiving development fees.
Thank you. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not in favor of supporting the reduction in residential fees. I would be open to having a conversation with council, not tonight, but another open and public, transparent conversation about looking at the commercial development fees and what that means. This report stuck really much on residential, so I would be willing to investigate what it would look like waiving commercial fees. Do other municipalities do it? What is, the tax on residents when we look at that? But I think that that conversation should happen at another night as well.
Thank you. 4 is, Ron, would you like to say something, Mr. Rogers? You have one shot at this motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to suggest to the mover that he put a time frame on it.
Yes, sir. Use your mic so we can all hear it too, please.
To
A time frame for the
Counselor Rogers,
moratorium,
what- In terms of a time frame, what do you mean?
6 months.
6 months for the DC charges to be in place? And then after that, return to a normal fee? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll take 3 months, Ron. Because I know they're waiting.
It's up to you.
I know they're waiting. I'll take it, yeah. I'll go a month. I'll go a month. Good point, by the way. I'll go a month because they'll commit to it tomorrow. Thanks for that, Ron.
Okay, finish, Mr. Rogers? Okay.
Through
Mrs.
your
Hunter?
worship, I just want to reiterate to council that it's not simply, I can cut them off tomorrow and there'll be no DCs tomorrow. There is a process, it's a 60-day process where we have to follow according to our Development Charges Act. So if it's a month, it's going to take a month plus the 60 days.
Okay, so I'll for the purpose of the motion, I will make it 90 days. 'Cause
Okay.
Yeah.
90 days. Okay, my turn. And then Councilor Vokes made the motion, so we'll end up with him. I'm looking at this article that goes back to a special meeting of council on May the 19th, 2015. A presentation was given by former CEO Ross Phillips, which provided an overview of physical indicators. In his presentation, he identified that the municipal taxes per resident were approximately $652, while the municipal expense per resident were $1,577. Thus, for every dollar spent by the municipality, and that's us, in 2015, only 41% came from the residential tax base. Wow. You think I'm going to be in favor of this motion? Councilor Vokes.
Yeah, okay. All I'm suggesting to you is it's profoundly proven.
Okay, just to the motion. You made a
Yeah,
motion.
This is to the motion. This
I
is-
I need to hear the motion, please, so I know if you're
Okay.
swaying or not.
Okay, the motion at the moment is asking council to waive development charges for vacant residential and commercial property at Highway 3 and County Road 8 for 90 days.
Okay, there's not much more you can say.
There is actually, and I'm a little astounded that prior to any other counselor, you didn't ask for a repeat of the motion, but when I speak, you ask for a repeat. But with that being said.
Because they speak to
Yes,
the motion,
yes.
sir, and you don't usually stay to
I
the
want a
motion.
point of order. Yeah, point of order, because I said
That's
two
uncalled
words.
for.
I said two words, you stopped me, and you told me to speak to the motion, and in 2 words, you determined whether or not I was speaking to the motion. I said profoundly proven. And you
I
stopped
asked you just to stick to it. I didn't say you weren't sticking to it. I asked you to.
I want to reiterate one more time. I said profoundly proven. Oh, hold on, Councilor Vokes. You stopped me. You turned to Lori. You got clarification on the motion, and you don't even know what I was going to say. So why did you stop it?
Just told you if you would listen to me. You usually,
Usually.
and I don't want you going there.
Usually.
I
So, okay,
wanted,
then let
Counselor,
me
you asked
try-
me a question.
Yeah, okay. So let me tell you what I was going to
Listen,
say.
do you want me to answer you?
Let's move on.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. So it's been, council, it's been profoundly proven that in Leamington and in struggling areas in Windsor, it's worked. And it's proven to have cash recovery. And they're still doing it today in Leamington,
and they're still doing it today in underprivileged areas in Windsor. And that area out there, after 15 years of being totally vacant other than McDonald's and Tim Hortons, is deemed to be a little bit underprivileged for whatever reason that is. So that's it. That's all I want to say. I know for a fact, and they're waiting. Developers waiting for the answer here tonight. And a couple of them were going to come here tonight, and they said they will just await my answer. That's all they said they'll do. Because they didn't want to just come here to hear a simple yes or no, because they're not part and partial to it, to have any say. Anyways, call for the vote, yeah.
Madam Deputy Clerk?
Okay, I'll just repeat to the motion asking council to waive development charges for vacant residential and commercial property at Highway 3 and County Road 8 for 90 days. Councillor Vokes, how do you vote? For. Councillor Bjorkman?
Opposed?
Councillor Rogers?
I knew that.
Councillor Snively?
Opposed?
Councillor Bondy? Opposed. Mayor McDermott?
Opposed?
Deputy Mayor Malash?
Opposed.
With a vote of 2 in support and 5 opposed, the motion is defeated. Okay. Yep. Okay, item 8.6 on the agenda is Planning Report 2017-37. That Planning Report 2017-37 be received and that council discuss the proposed zoning bylaw revisions at a public meeting scheduled for Monday, November 20th, 2017, where council will receive public input regarding changes to the town's general zoning bylaw 1037.
Moved by Councillor Bondy, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries. Night, Eva.
Item 8.7 is Planning Report 2017-38, that said report be received, and that council support the recommendations contained in the report, and that a partial release of securities in the sum of $149,705.23 be approved for the Kimball Estates.
Moved by, who said support? Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 8.8 is Infrastructure and Development Report 2016-18, that said report providing council with a review of the placement of a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Walnut Street and Center Street East be received, and that stop ahead signs and oversized stop signs be installed on Center Street East to improve awareness of the intersection. In addition, the town requests the Ontario Provincial Police increase enforcement in the area.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bondy, supported by Councillor Rogers. Councillor Bondy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a request, next time we do traffic counts on that road, if we can do traffic counts on the southern half, not Walnut Street South, but Walnut between County Road 20 and Center, rather than Center and Sinisac or Munger. Do you know what I mean, Mr. Nepsey? I can come in and discuss it with you, but the south by Stop and Go, if the traffic counts can be there, I think that would be more helpful information. But thank you for your work on this file, and let's hope that this solves all of our problems and we won't have to do any more traffic counts.
I have a question. The request is for a four-way stop. That was the last meeting? Mr. Nepsey?
Through your worship, no, this was a request made last year, in last December. Then it was brought back again, and council had made it was a notice of motion at the last meeting to bring it back to discuss and I guess rediscuss putting a four-way there. because I don't know if the same resident brought it back or another resident brought it back. I reiterated the same report that was provided for you, because really nothing's changed out there. We discussed some of the data that was collected at the last meeting. And again, the data doesn't indicate or lend itself to any engineering reason for a four-way stop. The oversized stop signs are in place, and the stop ahead signs are in place. We can continue to do traffic counts where noted. I can talk to Councillor Bondi, and we can get some more data for that and continue to monitor and see if that changes. But as of right now, no, the four-way stop is not recommended by administration.
And that's all I needed to know. We're not putting a four-way stop at that corner, yeah. But we're making recommendations towards, hey, slow down, look, there's a stop ahead, those types of issues. Good, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so we're jumping to item 10, County Council update. Is there a council update?
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor and I had a county council meeting last Wednesday evening, and a couple of topics that we had discussed may be of interest to residents of Essex or our council here, is that there's a new fund that's been created. It's called the National Trade Corridors Fund. And through this fund, there's going to be, I think it's $2 billion over the next 10 years. $2 billion over the next 10 years. I think it worked out to $400 million that they were going to do in the first couple of years, of each the first couple of years. Yeah, it's $2 billion over 11 years. And so they're asking, and that's across Ontario, so they're asking different areas of the province what they want to do. The county came up with 3 projects. One was a centralized traffic control system for lights throughout the county, traffic lights. The second was a County Road 19 capacity expansion, which would mean 4 lanes from County Road 22 all the way through to number 3 Highway, with roundabouts at the major intersections, and also County Road 42 capacity expansion. If you're not familiar with County Road 42, that's the road that comes out of the city with the airport on it. So those were the 3 projects. One of the projects that County Council deemed we thought to be a priority was the County Road 19 capacity expansion, to have that turned into 4 lanes. It would be at a cost of about $53 million to the county. Grants would cover an additional $47 million of cost. The whole project's about a $100 million project, but it would be over the next 10 years. It wouldn't just be all of a sudden. So we're looking to try and see if we can get that grant. And if we're successful, that you'll see things starting to happen right away. There'll be an EA, first of all, and then you'll see things happening very quickly. So just thought you might want to know that. Secondarily, we also had a discussion on land ambulance service. And one of the, over the last couple of years, we've talked several times on deficiencies in the system. One of the recent developments is that Chatham-Kent has moved their closest location in Essex County was land ambulance service station in Tilbury. They've moved that one to be further out of town now towards Chatham. And by reciprocal agreement, the province says that that land service station in Tilbury had to cover would be the most eastern portion of Lakeshore and the most northeastern portion of Leamington. They could get there quicker than some of the Essex County or Essex County Windsor service, EMS. So what's going to happen now is we're going to spend about $2 million to try and upgrade service. That's one area. There'll be a wagon or an ambulance that will service kind of like in the Comber area. We'll sit around in that area. to try and service that particular part of the county. And also upgrades to both Jefferson and Dougal. They're going to have 24-hour round-the-clock, 7-day service with a third ambulance now at Dougal Avenue. And more hours, wouldn't be 7 days a week, but more hours at Jefferson as well. And that will help cover some of the deficiencies that are happening in the county. So I just want to bring those reports up. If you need more information, I can discuss with you after the meeting if you'd like, or if you'd like to go directly to directors at the County of Essex. Mr. Tom Bateman would be the roads project, and Mr. Bruce Crowder would be the land ambulance. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to bring town council up to speed on those couple of items.
Thank you very much for that, sir.
Item 11.1 is correspondence to be received. That correspondence listed in agenda item 11.1 be received, and we're indicated to further share such information with the community using suitable methods of communication.
And I'll accept the mover and a seconder for all of these, and if you'd like to discuss any one of them, we can do that. So moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Snively. Are there any of these anyone would like to discuss? Councillor Barney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I saw that the Prime Minister's office sent our correspondence on the algae blooms to the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. I think we just need to put a flag on that and a tracker on that and make sure the minister gets back to us. I think our Prime Minister should be a little bit more involved with what's happening with the Great Lakes, because they are our Great Lakes, and a lot of people are affected by them. So this is something now. Algae blooms is probably going to fall off the radar with the winter coming, but we can't allow it to fall off our radar. And I want to thank our MP, Tracy Ramsey, for writing a letter and hosting some meetings as well. But I want to keep it on the Town of Essex radar about the algae blooms, because it certainly affects us. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that the Great Lakes mayors will not let this fall off, the radars. So thank you for that. And Councillor Snively, and then Councillor Rogers.
Further that, Your Worship, I know IRCA itself, I sit on the board there, and we're working hard with the senior government. We're pushing senior government to come up with resolutions to clean up the Great Lakes, so.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I just be clear, you asked for any comments on the correspondence that, okay. On the correspondence from the Ministry on the Ontario Cannabis Act, I believe that, I don't know if this is the time to do this, but I believe that we should go on record that we would like to have a facility within our Harrow Urban Center. And I don't know if there's if that's something that we could look at tonight, or if that needs to be a notice of motion going forward. But I believe that we should take all steps that would be required to get our name out in front of them.
I can tell you that I've been working with a resident of the Town of Essex, and this person is in the southern part, and they have been working with our administration and our economic development officer, so it's in the works.
Well, I'd have to point out that this is going to be, the Ontario government is going to pick and choose where these places go. And I think we need to be in front of them and let them know that we want one in our Harrow Urban Center, which would highlight that area and bring tourism and traffic through there.
I probably have said more than I probably should have, so I'll let you make that recommendation or make a motion that we do that. So. Mrs. Hunter has comments.
Through you, Your Worship, I don't know what the process is. I'm just wondering if it would be better as a notice of motion, and then we'll come back to the next meeting with what we can do and what we're allowed to do. I'm not sure that we're even able to, if that's acceptable to Councillor Rogers.
Thank you. I will make that a notice of motion that we proceed with whatever is required to get our name out in front of the Ontario government to establish a cannabis retail site in our urban area.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other items for open for discussion? Okay. Council votes?
I was just wondering what we're working on in terms of cannabis facility, because you said there was some discussion started about, so could you bring council up to speed on that? We should know. It's going up in our environments. There shouldn't be backroom discussions about that.
Like I said, I probably said too much already, so
But
no
it's not
comment.
in camera, so can you share with us what
No,
it is?
no comment. If we got a builder coming in to build something on this property, we don't tell another builder or put it out there, so
We're not talking
no
about that.
comment.
We're talking about the council's right to know of opportunities in terms of cannabis operations totally going to happen inside the municipality. Because you just said there was discussions about it.
We're working on
So
something.
who is it?
That's right.
Who's working on it?
You're never going to find out from me, sir, so
Then come
stop,
so
please.
Can I direct it to administration then? I want to know.
Point of order, it's not on the agenda tonight.
It's not, but say it was raised by him, so
No,
now I want to know.
it's not on the agenda, though. We can raise it at the next meeting. Administration can bring it back.
Yeah, good idea. Bring a report back who's initiating whatever. Thank you. For the next meeting. And in terms of 11.1.6, I want to make sure that council endorses sending a letter instead of just receiving the correspondence as a whole and missing that. When? Last meeting? Right, but I see it's here again, so why is it here again? If we,
Point of information, we are receiving Amherstburg's letter tonight.
and who did we send it for last time then?
We sent it to everybody on the correspondence that, from the Chatham Kent.
Okay, very well then. Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor? Oh,
Oh,
Councilor Bond.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, there's just a staff member on there that we should send congratulations to, Norman. I still can't even say his last name.
We're going to do
Nucio?
that when he's here.
Okay, all right, thank you. I don't want him to be forgotten. It's certainly recognized that he has got recent certification as a road supervisor.
Yep. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 11.2.1 is correspondence to be considered for receive and support. This is correspondence from the Township of Montague regarding Bill 148. Motion would be that correspondence from the Corporation of the Township of Montague dated October 2nd, 2017, providing council with a copy of correspondence that they sent to the Premier of Ontario requesting that all municipal employees be specifically exempted from the on-call changes proposed by Bill 148, be either received or received and supported, and that if council chooses to support this resolution, that a letter of support advising of the same be sent to the Honorable Kathleen Wynne, Minister of Labour, at the Association of Municipalities in the Township of Montague.
Councilor Barney.
Mr. Mayor, can we table this to our next meeting to have administration briefly tell us what Bill 148 means a little bit more in terms of on-call in our municipality? At the budget meeting, it was touched on a little bit that basically how our firefighters were stated on call, depending on the language, would mean. Being a union supporter, I don't necessarily want to support this tonight without having more information. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to having any other council member. I don't know.
I'll second that. It needs seconding to table.
Yep. Motion to table and seconded by Councilor Bjorkman. All in favor? Motion carries.
Okay, item 11.2.2. This is from the Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation, that the email from Weedsy dated October 25th, 2017, advising that the Ontario Auto Mayors are requesting that council give consideration to passing a resolution citing the importance of the auto industry and urging all governments to place a high priority on the auto industry during NAFTA renegotiations, be received and supported, and that if council chooses to support the Ontario Auto Mayor's request, the following resolution be endorsed and a copy of this resolution be sent to the Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Mayor, we've moved this specifically by you because they've asked that it come from the mayor.
And I'm moving that, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Discussion? None? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 12 on the agenda, committee meeting minutes, that the committee meeting minutes listed in the agenda, together with any recommendations noted therein, be received and adopted as circulated. We have minutes from the Communities in Bloom Committee, Committee of Adjustment, Coan Park, and the Essex Police Services Board.
Moved by Councillor Bunny, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any discussion with regards to any of these five? Nope. All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 14, new business, 14.1. Councillor Bonnie asked us to put an item on related to the Harrow Christmas Lights / Beautification Fund.
Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps our CEO, Donna Hunter, can talk about how the Christmas lights are going to go up and why we may need to utilize this fund in 2017 and why we're bringing it to council's attention, if you may.
Mrs. Hunter.
Through you, Your Worship, basically ELK is going to be putting up the lights on November the 15th, and then they're going to put them up regardless of whether they work or they don't, and then they're going to go and determine which ones need to have the connections replaced or repaired, and at that point we should have a better idea of how much that cost is going to be, so that we can get as much done this year as possible, so that we have those lights up and running and operating. So I can't give you an exact amount in terms of what this might cost, but we know we have limits in terms of the beautification fund, and I think we can make some good decisions when the time comes and we know what the issues are.
Item 14.2, Councillor Snively has asked us to put an item on related to the nominating someone to the Essex County Agricultural Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Don, I really don't know how this works. I think I have information about this farmer. I'm going to read it to council. I've never come across this as a councillor, but I've been asked to nominate Terry Wright. I think we all know Terry. And just give you some of his background. This is for the Agriculture Hall of Fame, okay? And we're a member of the organization, and we can nominate somebody. So anyways, Terry Wright was a graduate of Harrow High School. He graduated from Ridgetown Agriculture College in 1960. He was assistant dean of Ridgetown Agriculture College in 1961. And the organizations he was involved with, he was the chair of the Essex County Growers. He received an award of merit for Essex County Associated Growers. He was vice chair of the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, past labor section chairperson for the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, Canadian Horticultural Council past director, involved with the local seasonal agriculture worker program. He was appointed to the Ontario Agriculture Financial Protection Board, past director of Ontario Processing Vegetable Growers and the Marketing Board. So he also was the vice chair of the Seed Corn Growers of Ontario and his involvements in the community, he was quite active. He's a member of the Herald United Church, a member of the Essex County Goodfellows, 14 years as counselor for Colchester South Township back in the days. He's also the deputy reeve, past deputy reeve, and reeve of Colchester South Township. Former warden of Essex County in 1980. Terry has farmed in the area for over 50 years. He has 2 young sons, Rodney and Greg. They're involved with the farming community with him also. So Rodney looks after the greenhouse operation where they grow tomatoes, and Greg looks after the field crops and apples. For many years, Terry has grown processing tomatoes, seed corn, plus many different kinds of fresh fruit and vegetables, and fruit. So he's really been involved with the farm community, and I would recommend that we nominate him for a Hall of Fame for agriculture, Essex County agriculture. Thank you, Your Worship.
And I would support that personally, and I think you would have to talk to the Agricultural Society with that recommendation, but I would prefer that you say on behalf of the town council, the town of Essex, all of us, that we support that. I agree with that.
Thank you, Your Worship, but it's got to be brought forward, I understand, through, because we're a member. It's got to be brought through because we're a member. So maybe I can recommend, maybe our CEO can forward this information, but it's got to be, we're a member of that organization. Thank you.
So all in favor of that? Yes. Motion carries. Yes, sure.
Okay, item 15.1, we're in the notices of motion. The following notices of motion, there were 2 motions presented at the October 16th regular council meeting. They're being brought forward tonight for consideration. The first, 15.1.1, Councillor Snively moved that administration prepare a report on a bylaw to restrict or regulate vehicles over 1/2 load on municipal roads during the spring and summer months when we have extreme temperatures in an attempt to control damage to our roads.
That was moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Bondi. Councillor Snively.
I'd like to speak on this issue for different reasons. I'll take the 4th concession for an example. The road that's west of McCormick to Walker is in good shape. The road east of McCormick to the Arner Town Line is absolutely a mess. In one day, we had 200 trucks, and I have residents sitting there in vehicles counting the trucks coming down. 200 dump trucks loaded with heavy, wet clay soil. One of the problems here is they're not putting that 3rd axle down to distribute weight. They've been told over and over and over and over again to lower that axle to distribute the weight properly on them trucks. They just don't do it, and they won't listen. I'm sure some of the councilors have gone out there and looked at this mess. To me, as a taxpayer, and I'm going to talk as a taxpayer, and I'm going to talk to the residents, for us to pay $120,000 to $140,000 per kilometer to do a road, and we have these trucks in one day can destroy these roads, that's not fair to the ratepayer. And then I have a ratepayer say to me, he's building up his property 29 inches and not building a house on it. Not building a house on it. So he's bringing a fill in. Why is he bringing that fill in? I don't know. I think he's getting paid to take the fill. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But what if this was the 3rd concession that we just redid the road? at $140,000 a kilometer, and it takes 1 day for these trucks to destroy the road. It's not fair to the ratepayer. So this is why I brought this forward. I think certain times of the year, and they were down there in the extreme heat too, when the roads are soft, okay, they're coming down there just loaded, okay, without that that other axle down. And they don't care. They don't care. So somehow we have to come up with the bylaw, and I really thank our administrative staff, and they are working on this, and they have something in place. Right now, I think there's a $1,000 retainer. If I'm right, Mr. Nepsey, it's a $1,000 retainer that they have to put forward if they're bringing down fill. What's $1,000 fix? Nothing. Nothing at all. And I'm quite concerned because it's a road I live on myself, and I see what's going on. Now, another issue with these trucks is this. I've had calls last week. Steel haulers, carrying coils, going down the third concession that we just did. And I'll tell you, it's not Robinson Trucking. I'll bring that right out right now, because he would never allow those trucks to go down there. It's companies from out of our area, probably states or whatever. But they're driving down there with coils on the truck. I don't know how we're going to reinforce it. I don't know why the MTO will not patrol these roads maybe once a week and stop. All they have to do is stop one of these trucks and they get a hell of a fine, and that's it. And that'll stop it. But for some reason, we cannot get the MTO on board. I know they've been notified, okay? I know administration's notified them. And we have to get on top of this, because I'm not going to sit there and watch our roads be destroyed by truckers that don't care. And this landowner, I'll end it right here. This landowner tells me, I pay $7,000 a year in taxes. Well, I pay $5,200. And I'm sure in the hell not going to have somebody destroy my roads. Believe me. And we have to get on top of this. I know other municipalities have that problem, but somehow we got to police this, okay? I know it's a tough thing to police, but somehow we're going to have to convince the MTO they have to get out there and stop this, because we can't afford, as taxpayers, to be throwing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in the roads and have a trucking firm ruin them in a week. So I'll leave it at that, Your Worship.
I have a question maybe to Mr. Nepsey. In your statement, you said they've been told not to drive down there. Like, to Mr. Nepsey, does the town tell these truck drivers, or who? Like, what is he referring to? You know? Maybe I should just ask Mr. Snively. I don't know. You can answer it?
Through your worship, I can provide somewhat of an answer. Councillor Snavely noted that the enforcement is always the toughest issue. You've got these trucks. We're not on every section of road all the time. Definitely our supervisors and managers, when they see these trucks that aren't supposed to be there or their axles aren't dropped, we definitely try to talk to them. The issue is, again, as Councillor Snively noted, they really don't care. So what we've been working on with the clerk's department is fashioning a bylaw that retains money up front, similar to the road use agreement we have with the solar farms and the wind farms, so that when someone comes in to get a permit for build, then we collect a certain amount of money based on how far they're going to be traveling on our roads. And it's more than $1,000. The $1,000 gets us nothing. You know, whether it's a per kilometer basis or a per agreement basis, then we have a pot of money to use at our discretion if the road gets damaged. If not, they'll get the money returned. So this is something that we're looking at in conjunction with the other municipalities around here and with the clerk's department.
That makes sense. Thanks a lot for that. Councilor Vokes?
Thank you, Your Worship. What class, what our concessionary roads, what class rating are they, Chris? Do we know
Through your worship, the Class B roads are rated at,
22,000.
well, depending on axle spacing and axle loads, it's 8,200 kilograms an axle. If their axles are less than 2.4 meters apart, or sorry, greater than 2.4 meters apart, it's 5,200 kilograms an axle. So it all depends on axle width, and that's the other thing, enforcing, how far the axles are apart, whether that third axle is down, which distributes the weight. So those are the key concerns there. So, but the fourth concession and the third concession are noted as Class B roads. The issue with the current bylaw, as discussed before, is the bylaw has a statement in there, which is similar to most bylaws in the region, that allow construction on your property. You can't stop somebody from doing construction on their property, and that's the issue. So that's why we want to go ahead and look at the permitting stage to say, sure, we can't stop you. We're going to make sure that we have some funds aside to protect ourselves, because probably in a year or so, after you've moved in and built your house, you're going to come to town hall and complain that your road is not in good shape. So,
Well, the bottom line is the trucks don't matter. The trucks are irrelevant. Trucks have nothing to do with it. The truth is that the rating of the road has to fall within a specific classification. And then based on that specific classification is you do, and you may be restricted as a municipality on frost freeze to allow for half-load limit. But you got to remember and the reason why the trucks don't matter is because when you apply a half-load limit, are you applying a half-load limit to a tandem truck with a licensed gross weight of 62,000? Or are you applying a half-load weight to a four-axle configuration that has a registered gross weight allowed by the province of 144,000? So what are you applying the half-load law to? That's the question of the day. And that's why the trucks don't matter. He's got a question.
I don't have the answer. Do you have, Councilor
I'm
Steinway?
not done, but he seems to have a question, so I'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for council.
Councilor,
I have a question.
Councilor
for council.
Vokes asked the question, though.
Okay.
Can you answer it? He said,
I was talking. Larry
Yes.
looked like he seemed like he had a question.
I have a question.
no,
So I'm saying,
but you
okay.
asked the
No,
question.
to
You
Councilor
don't want
Vokes.
the
He knows
answer.
about trucks. How about the third axle
Yeah,
being lowered?
The third axle is what you're saying it is. It's just distribution of weight. It would take 60,000 pounds on a three-axle configuration with a 9-foot spread, and divide that by 3, and every 9 foot would carry a third of that weight. But if your axles were tighter, you would have more weight at that given spot. So my point is that it doesn't matter what you do. Like in Michigan, they got frost freeze, right, considerations. You can only really apply it, and I know it makes people upset, but I don't want to sound pessimistic, but there's not much you can do. I hate saying it, but there's not much you do. The material has to move. It has to move. So we could either take the road and do one or two things. Making it a half-load road is going to do nothing, because I'm going to go down there, I'm going to be Robinson, I'm going to go down there grossing out at about 153,000 because of my licensing. I'll go half-load, so I'll roll down there about 80,000 pounds. So it doesn't matter. The only thing we can do is make it a non-passable road by trucks. And if we do that, we're going to stop the process. It's as simple as that. You either decide to make it a non-truck route or a truck route and put the class road limitations to it. There's no other alternative. You can't make rules up as you go in terms of transportation. It doesn't work that way. It don't. Chris doesn't have the power to do it either. So either council's going to make it a non-truck road or they're not. Because I'll just go down there with a smaller truck, but I'll still be, instead of sending one triple axle down with a 9-foot spread, I'll send 3 tandems down. But I'll still get the material there. It'll just take me 3 trips. That's all. I'll get around it. Don't matter to me.
Okay, finish, Counselor? Well, I don't want to say anything or let Mr. Nepsey say anything if you're not finished.
No, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Microphone will be off. Just Okay, Mr. Nepsey, I'll let you go, and then I have something to say.
Through your worship, I was just going to add on to Councillor Vokes and note that the bylaw we're looking at is trying to flush out those details as far as how we're going to restrict, how we can restrict, is it per axle, and looking to get that deposit up front, noting that enforcement is always going to be the largest issues.
Okay, go ahead. Mike, though, please. We can't hear here.
Bear in mind and keep in mind, per axle, I could go out tomorrow and get a 6-axle truck. So if you limit the amount I can put on an axle, I'm still going to go down there with tons and tons of weight on. The axle distribution don't have anything to do with it. It's got nothing to do with it. It doesn't. I've been in that business 32 years. It's got nothing to do with it.
Yep, and we've all heard that. And I want to, all I was going to say is what Mr. Nepsey said. We'll make them pay up front. Anybody who wants to go over there with a 6-axle, I'm sure it's going to cost them a lot more than it is if a guy goes down there with a 3-axle load. And that's what they're working on now. So administration, keep up the good work and put an end to that, beating up the roads for us. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly understand the point that's being made here as far as the half-load limit on our roads. And the fourth concession is very bad. I drive on it twice a day in a school bus, and that thing bounces around quite a bit. It is in atrocious shape, and as many of our other roads are. But my concern is, and I think that the bylaw that is being looked at will certainly address a small portion of the problem, but it's enforcement. Enforcement is going to be absolutely impossible. Very, very seldom will we ever catch anybody breaking the law.
And I have Councillor Snively. Thank you.
Through your worship, I agree with Councillor Rogers, but we have to push for enforcement. Plain and simple, we do. We got to push for enforcement, and we have to keep pushing. We got to push the MTO. That is their job. That's their job. Plain and simple. You know, I'll say one thing to council: just catch one steel hauler going down the third concession. I'll guarantee he won't go down there again after he gets nailed. He won't go down there again on that Class B road. So, I'm happy you're doing this, Mr. Nepsey, increasing the deposit. I think that'll help some. Okay, I think another thing, when the permits are being issued, I think when the permits are being issued by the town, I think it should be made very clear to who's taking that permit out, okay, that they sign an agreement that they're going to follow the rules with axle and everything else. So, thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item 15.1.2 is a notice of motion from Councillor Vokes that the Minister of Health be invited to attend a Town of Essex Council meeting to discuss health care in our region.
Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Rogers, Councillor Snively, either one. Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'll keep it simple. All my motion details is very simple. I'm just requesting council send a letter, not asking, not telling, but requesting from Eric Hoskins, our health minister, when he can attend council. Not if, why, where, can you, will you. The question to him is very, very straightforward. At the request of the council, the town of Essex, in terms of health care concerns in our region, when can you come to council to discuss with us your long-term, or short-term and long-term plans? Because I had the opportunity to be in the emergency room at Med Hospital, and what I really want to talk to him about is not the healthcare in whole, because that's a dilapidated giant. I want to talk to him specifically about, let's take some small steps. Let's look at our ER rooms. There's people giving birth in our emergency rooms. There's people dying in our emergency rooms. There's people having blood drawn in the hallways of our hospitals in the emergencies room and tests being done. They're bringing temporary curtains around people and placing those around people in the hallway while they interview them and talk to them about their problem. Or they draw blood, or they do some procedure to try to give them some privacy. And that our health care in the province of Ontario, I like to believe, is not in that condition yet. And if it means more taxes from people, then let's do that. But let's save those discussions for when he's here. Because he owes it to us as a council and our community about the deplorable state of our emergency rooms. And that's all I want to specifically talk about. Because once you get them inside, I'm not going to tell you it's good, and I'm not going to tell you it's not bad, but it's much more progressive than the emergency room is. And people shouldn't have to wait for 8 hours to see a doctor in horrible pain. No excuse. Not in Ontario. No excuse. And all I'm going to lobby him to do is help us, and I would like to believe the other municipalities would support us on hospitals in our region having a more expeditious process in the ER rooms to help people when they so need it. So I'll just leave it at that. So I'm just hoping we can get a letter to him that asks when he can attend. Not if, not can you, when can you attend?
Any comments? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
Sorry, hold on. Okay. Councillor Bondi has left, but she did ask that a notice of motion be added to tonight's agenda to be brought forward at the November 20th meeting, that administration be asked to prepare a report on greater issues on Given Road, Snake Lane, in Ward 3 in the town of Essex. Okay.
That's okay that she's not here. Okay.
That's just a
Yeah,
notice.
notice of motion.
Okay,
Right.
very good. Yeah, it's,
It's a notice of motion.
yes. It's just a notice of motion, so I'm just giving the notice of motion. Okay. Item 16 is reports from council members.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Malash, we'll start with you, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I'd like to remind everybody about, and I'm sure most people know about this, Veterans Day celebrations and Memoriam Day that we have here in Ward 1, Essex Center. The Legion will celebrate by starting with a parade march-off at 9:45 from the Legion, and we'll reach the United Church at right next door to Town Hall at about 10 o'clock. And the United Church will have a service at 10 o'clock. They'll disperse somewhere between 10:45 and 11. And if you want to be at the Cenotaph for 11 a.m., if you can't make the service, that's when the service, that's when the celebrations and memorial will start with honor guard and so on, and laying of the wreaths at the beautiful cenotaph that we have here in Ward 1. Secondly, I'd like to let everybody know that the following weekend we'll have Goodfellows Paper Drive. That'll be held on Friday, November the 17th, and Saturday, November the 18th. Please keep an eye out for the volunteers selling papers. All proceeds are turned over to our local food banks. So it's a very good cause. Please help out. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Sir, Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. I've been doing some homework in terms of conferences. And my question is the last conference we attended as a council was in August, correct, in Ottawa? Am I right in saying that? Was it the August 16th and 17th?
Councillor Vokes, I've just been informed that this is a announcements, no
Yeah.
question and answer period, just we're making announcements at this time, that's it. If you would like information, another time, like call the office or whatever, but this is just an information session right now. What's coming on, up in front of us?
Oh, no, but I had an announcement hinging off that, but that's okay. I'll call the office.
Okay. You want to make your announcement?
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you, Your Worship. This Sunday at November 12th at 10 a.m. is the Jingle Bell Run for Community Living Essex County. It's a great event. It's a great turnout. Even if you're not running, come into town and everybody's running down Main Street. A lot of them are dressed up in their Santa Claus best, and then they have a big bake sale and get together back at Ken Knapp's there. So it's a really great event. Supports our community living group, and it's really worthwhile. So that's this Sunday, 10 to 11 at Ken Knapp's.
Much, sir. Councillor Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any announcements tonight. It's kind of early, it's first time in the big room. And, but thank you very much for putting up with me.
No problem. Councillor Snively?
Thank you, Your Worship. Same thing, Veterans Day, November 11th in Harrow at 1 o'clock at the Legion. So we'll have the service and the parade at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to the two parades, after there's socializing and everything else at both branches, and I know they have food there and everything. Essex Branch 201 has chicken wings and pizza and everything else, and then they go at 1 o'clock to the Harrow Cemetery, or not the Harrow, the Cottam Cemetery, because they look after that one also, as it used to be a part of the Essex Branch at one time, a long time ago. And further to the remembrance celebrations, Essex District High School this year is allowing the students out on Friday. I haven't got a time, but the school is going to be out. They're going to march down to the cenotaph in Essex Center. And again, I don't have the time, but they're going to have a band leading them down there with the police and everything else. So anyone that wants to be a part of that on Friday, and I heard they're supposed to let the two schools, grade schools, out also to attend that service. So this will be the first for this happening. So being it's, it's going to be something if you want to attend that. So thank you very much.
For you, Your Worship, I believe Doug Sweet has the time if you wanted that to be announced.
Yes, Mr. Sweet.
To Your Worship, they're marching from the high school beginning at 10:30, and their service will begin at the Essex Cenotaph at 11.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Okay. Our deputy clerk just reminded me that those are reports from the council members, announcements. I put them both together, so anyone else have anything else to say, whether it be a report or an announcement? Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, bylaws. Item 18.1, 18.1.1, bylaw 1649, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the October 16th, 2017 regular meeting of council, be read a third time and finally passed on November 6th.
Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 18.2.1, these are bylaws that require first, second, third, and final reading. Bylaw 1655, being a bylaw to authorize certain capital works of the Corporation of the Town of Essex, to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing such capital works, to authorize temporary borrowing from OILC to meet expenditures in connection with such works, and to authorize long-term borrowing from OILC for such works through the issue of debentures.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Deputy Mayor Milosh. Favor? Motion carried.
18.2.2, bylaw 1656, being a bylaw to appoint a manager communications for the town of Essex.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Snively. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Okay. Bylaws requiring first and second reading. Item 18.3.1, bylaw 1654, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Corporation of the Town of Essex and the Ontario Fire Administration, Inc.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
18.3.2, bylaw 1652, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 6th regular meeting of council.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries. And looking for an adjournment, Councillor Bjorkman, Councillor Snively. All in favor? Motion carries. Have a great evening, everyone.